one of the first things that I'll talk about is a simple prioritization framework. I do this in every single startup meeting that I go to, where a lot of entrepreneurs ask me, in this digital age, how do I prioritize my digital marketing efforts? I can't do everything. I've got very limited time, very limited resources. How do I prioritize my digital marketing efforts? So we'll try and address that to begin with. I'll take you through some of the adventures as a part of that itself that we went through at Razorpay, which made Razorpay the name that it is today. Then I'll take you through the Healthify Me story and also talk about how AI-led acquisition actually played a role in shaping that growth story at Healthify Me. We'll look at Simply Learn, and what we will also do is I'll take you through some other startups where I have not personally been a part of them, but I've observed them from the sidelines, which in my view are SEO-led, content-led success stories in India. Where they've not spent a lot in marketing at all, but they've managed to build long-term, profitable, scalable businesses. So I'll take you through that. And then also take you through a story of failure at Stagezilla. It was actually, I don't know how many of you remember this name, Stagezilla, but quick show of hands, anybody? Stagezilla.com? 1, 2, thanks, 3. It was actually shut down pretty unceremoniously some 7 years ago after raising cumulatively $60-70 million. I'll take you through that story as well and the learnings from that story. I believed it then, I believe it even more so now, that you learn a lot more from your failures than you do from your successes. So that's a failure that I wear very proudly on my sleeve. So I'll take you through that as well. Prioritization frameworks, quick sense check. A lot of people ask me, what should I prioritize? Should I do Facebook? Should I do LinkedIn? Should I do Google search, which I'm sure all of you are aware of, right? SEM and SEO, search engine marketing, search engine optimization. What should I focus on? That's a question that I often get asked. So I'll give you a simple rule of thumb using which you can make these kinds of prioritization decisions for your business, for your startup. Now, the first question you need to ask yourself in an attempt to answer this question is, are you operating in a category, in an industry which is mature, which is mass, or is that niche? That's the first question you need to ask yourself. Now, you can answer this in a couple of different ways. One is, as an entrepreneur, you have a gut-based instinct that tells you that I sell saris online, I'm mass, I conduct mental wellness programs online, I'm probably niche, right? Now, if you're mass, what happens? You make Google search a focus in your brands, your startups, customer acquisition efforts. Why? Because it's common sense. Now, you may not be Amazon, you may not be Flipkart, you may not have the ability to create new user behavior patterns, but what you can very well do is to piggyback and to ride the wave on existing user demand patterns which are already manifesting on Google search. Now, you've done nothing to be in this vantage position. Somebody else has done the hard work, or there is some macroeconomic behavioral condition that is actually prompting so many people to search for keywords which are related to your category on Google. What you can very well do, however, is to be opportunistic and to piggyback and ride that wave during that moment of truth when somebody is searching for keywords related to your business. So in this case, SEM and SEO become a logical choice. What do you do if you're not that lucky? What do you do if you're operating in a category which is niche, which means there is not a lot of keyword search volume on Google? You don't directly go to Facebook, you ask yourself an additional question. Am I operating in a category that is high on personal connect, where the emotional connect is a lot, where I as an entrepreneur have the opportunity to inject a very strong visual element into my marketing communications? If the answer to that is yes, you then make Facebook a focus. For example, at Influencer Personae are white collar professionals who are fairly active on LinkedIn. You make LinkedIn a focus. For example, at Healthify Me again, we had a corporate wellness program where we sold employee wellness, employee engagement solutions to a lot of large corporate houses in India, Infosys, Ashok Leyland, Maruti, etc., Cognizant, and so on. The Tata Group, etc. And there we were essentially selling to the CHRO, Chief Human Resource Officer. So we ran LinkedIn account-based marketing campaigns for a list of 5,000 named accounts in India, which was our target list of accounts. And there we targeted anybody who had a designation within those accounts of a director of HR and above, or anybody who was a CXO, even if they were outside of HR, because they were senior enough to influence that decision. So we targeted them. Of course, LinkedIn and digital and AI doesn't always have to be the answer. I've mentored multiple B2B edtech companies that sold to schools, where the school principal was the primary decision maker. Unfortunately, at least in India, not a lot of school principals are there on LinkedIn. Of course, you could still use other digital channels, but you're using very mass platforms for going after a very niche audience. So it's not going to be very ROI positive. In those cases, I often recommend to them to work with a channel partner bundle your offering along with theirs, have a joint go-to-market, because they have already access to those customers that you're looking to set to. Because selling to schools is super difficult, right? Long gestation cycles, long sales cycles. So it makes sense for you to partner with somebody who already has that network, who already has that equity established with a lot of these schools. Now, what happens if you're super unlucky? And this could happen for a lot of you, I would imagine, where you're trying to build something which is totally blue ocean, where you're not just trying to build a brand, but you're trying to build a category. So you don't have any existing keyword search volumes on Google search because it's never been done before. That need is so latent in a lot of your target customers that nobody's searching for it on Google search. You're the first, you're the pioneer, right? So what do you do in that kind of a case? So your niche, and to make matters worse, and this can especially happen if you're in B2B, the nature of the category is such that the personal connect is not a lot between the brand and the end customer. It's not like health or fashion, right? And we had this exact same problem at Razorpay. I'm sure all of you have heard of Razorpay here, India's largest payment aggregation service, payment gateway, payment links, etc. It used to provide, which takes care of the inward money movement cycle. Neo-banking service, which takes care of the outward money movement cycle, which enables businesses to pay out funds. Raw material suppliers, vendor partners, people's salaries, payroll, etc. Now here, like I said, India's largest. The biggest problem was, since it is B2B payments and it's not peer-to-peer payments like Google Pay, Phone Pay, not a lot of keyword search volume on Google. It's really a niche space. By niche, make sure that you don't confuse that with size of the TAM. But the problem was the behavior of searching for something around digital payments on Google search. That is fairly limited. That was a problem here. And to make matters worse, its personal connect is not a lot, right? The key persona that we sold to, which is somebody like you, the startup founder, entrepreneur persona, they don't wake up in the morning, jump out of bed, get excited that they want to start using a payments product. It's just not glamorous like health or fashion. So what did we do? We went slightly outside of the realm of relevance of the business, and we focused through our keyword research again, 3 thematic keyword areas where there was a lot of search volume which was relevant for entrepreneurs like yourself. The first one was digital literacy. So we created content around how do you build a brand presence on LinkedIn, how do you use Instagram for growing your social media brand presence. Financial literacy was theme 2. A lot of tech entrepreneurs had no idea how to build a PNL and how to read a PNL and a balance sheet. How to read a PNL and a balance sheet. Compliance, a lot of them had no idea how to navigate the GST compliance, tax maze, creating GST tax calculators for them to know which slab they belong to, etc. Now you might argue and say the relevance for these content pieces to Razorpay's business is not a lot, which is true, but the relevance for these content pieces to the target customer, which is the entrepreneur persona, is a lot. And more importantly, the kind of keyword search volumes for these kinds of keywords are significantly larger than core business-centric, dhanda-centric keyword search volumes, right? Which we needed to create, of course, because that's where the reality of the business lane. But we have the fact that we were able to create content for these kinds of keywords, which were slightly adjacent, it wasn't too far away from the business, meant that my brand was getting exposed to a significantly larger eyeball universe. I was able to get them into my funnel, engage, nurture them over time, and convert them into paying customers. Of course, these people, I'm not getting college kids in through the door. I'm still getting relevant audiences, entrepreneurs in through the door. I'm just catching them at a different moment of truth. Instead of catching them when they are looking for a payment solution, I'm catching them when they're looking to build a digital product, when they're looking to build a digital brand presence, when they're searching for something around compliance. So they won't have the same level of intent for buying a payments product from me like they would have had if they had come through a targeted performance marketing advertisement. So this is a first-person narrative, testimonial-led communication. This one is a third-person narrative. It features people who already look like Greek gods, Hrithik Roshan, Milind Soman, all of these people. Very good-looking models are featured in this advertisement. This has everyday people like you and me coming in here. And this is more nutrition-led, and that is fitness-led. And we had figured out that nutrition is a bigger determinant of somebody's overall well-being, food that they eat as compared to workouts. The other difference is, through our keyword research again, we had actually noticed that the dreaded W word is something that we needed to talk about, which is weight loss, right? We shouldn't shy away from talking about that. A lot of people felt, and this might be a debate that you might be facing internally in your startup, that what if you talk about something, will that make the startup less cool? What if it makes it less aspirational, right? A lot of people felt that if you talk about weight loss in as many words, as a key value proposition, it might bring down the aspirational value of the brand. But we noticed from our keyword research again that a lot of India is now one of the obesity capitals of the world. A lot of Indians are searching for weight loss solutions. So it's at the end of the day, you create brands not for you and me as the founders, but you create it for your end customers. So you need to put out stuff that is relatable to them, which is why we said we'll talk about weight loss. We don't want to talk about health as a very amorphous, intangible thing. We'll talk about health as a very tangible thing. You get a very tangible pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, which in this case is weight loss, right? So all of the communication that we used was high empathy communication featuring user testimonials, video communications, check. All of this works really well on Facebook, which is the reason why in our overall mobile acquisition recipe, Facebook was one of the primary channels that worked for us. We had like multiple Facebook campaigns running concurrently, targeting different kinds of demographic cohorts. It was personalized, so a 40-something person suffering from hypertension would see an ad featuring somebody from his or her demographic spectrum. A 20-something who's looking to get a six-pack ab would see an ad again, which comes from his demographic spectrum. So it would feature a young man again. And Google became a very close second to Facebook over time, and we went through a very interesting journey in making Google a second. Google has something called as a UAC campaign construct, Universal App Campaigns. You want to run app install ads, UAC campaigns was the de facto one. Now, when UAC was first launched, everybody hated it because in the new model, everything would be led by AI, and that's gotten better now. The AI algorithms would decide who to run the ad to, when and where. You as a marketer, as an advertiser, as a human being, as an entrepreneur, you had no control. You had to essentially say in Google, Baba, we trust. And nobody likes to give up control, right? And when we launched Google UAC campaigns, again, to begin with, the results were pretty poor. But what we did was we persisted with it. And we implemented something called as the Google Pixel, which is a small piece of JavaScript code, which you can implement in your mobile applications page, which executes or runs every time the page runs, page loads, and it passes information back to Google. Think of it as a spy or a mole embedded within your application that sends information back to its masters, which in this case is Google. So when we implemented this, we saw some interesting things actually happening. And what we did was, let's say that there is a new user who comes and signs up on the Health Family application. Let's say you, ma'am, you come and sign up on the Health Family app. She completes a registration on the Health Family application, right? She completes what is called as an upstream life cycle event in her life cycle of engagement with the Health Family application. I capture this information. I send this information via the Pixel into the Google ecosystem, completely anonymized and aggregated, keep in mind. So I'm just oversimplifying the example for her, but at the end of the day, you send no personally identifiable information. Her name, email, phone number, etc. would not be shared. It'll all be aggregated and anonymized and shared with Google. So I would give Google a sense of her psychographic profile, digital browsing habits, geographic, demographic profile. So she's a millennial from Kerala who loves fashion and loves cricket, for example, right? I would share this information. And then let's say she continues to consume content on the app, she completes, maybe picks up a 7-day free trial, midstream lifecycle event, I pass this information back. She eventually spends 8,000 rupees and purchases a 6-month plan from Health Family. So she has completed an important downstream event as well. It's an important event because she's just moved from being a free user to a paying customer. So I tell Google, pick this event up as well, but by the way, give it the highest weightage because she's just become a paying customer for me. Right, I share this information again. Now what I tell Google is, listen, she represents a good customer profile for me. Find me 100 more digital clones of this lady. Right, that's what I would ask Google to do. Now the terms AI and ML are fairly abused in our ecosystem today, but Google really does have, and so do every other large ad network, they have AI and ML algorithms working in place which can do this reverse engineering. And they will find more of these digital clones of this lady. The catch, however, is this works well only at scale. Right? These AI ML algorithms have worked so far that this point of scale can be achieved sooner. So which means that when I was sharing an information of just one information of that lady, one instance of that lady, of a good customer profile, asking it to find the next 100, it wasn't very accurate. But when we persisted with the Pixel and we were sharing it, 1,000 such examples of her, right, who are also good customers. I was sharing a lot of data with the AI algorithm, 1,000 such instances, and asked it to find the next 100,000. It started to work really well. Essentially what we were sharing was the digital jadagam of every single user without revealing PII, and asked Google to do the reverse engineering and find more digital clones. This is what I like to call the new age AI driven inside out targeting. through some market research that you might have done separately, and you run campaigns towards that source of truth. Here you're letting data and you're letting user behavior within your own application either validate or in some cases challenge your original hypothesis on who your ideal customer is. For example, when we first launched Healthy Family, we thought like everybody else that the millennial was the ideal customer for us. Turns out it wasn't. It was actually people who were older than the millennial bracket, people from my age group who are the ideal customer, right? So they had a greater propensity to convert. So a lot of the targeting that we used Facebook for I go there, was essentially the goalpost that we would give Facebook was optimize for conversions, which is the last event of purchase. Somebody actually buying something from me. Your daily budget is say 5,000 rupees. Now go do what you want to do and find me the right persona. It was completely the AI engines. I just want you to target people living in metro cities in India. So the AI engine essentially had a free rein. So initially it would run campaigns targeting potentially say all of you. Let's say all of you represent the Facebook universe. And then it figures out over time that all of you people sitting on the right hand side are not converting. Right? Only the people sitting here on the left hand side. People sitting on the left hand side and their lookalikes, right? Who are similar to the people sitting on the left hand side. Those are the only ones who are converting. So after time, what happens is that the campaign stops targeting all of you and your lookalikes. And it shifts all of its targeting to the left side. Because these are the only people who are converting and have given it a particular goal. Right? So like I said, this is the new age of AI-driven inside-out targeting. And this it does in real time. It learns in real time based on who is converting and who is not on your own application. Now, moving on, I'll take you through something that, something that we did at Simplilearn, where we actually managed to crack the repeats problem. At Simplilearn, most of the products it sells are online recorded videos. Some of it is live online classes. So it provides completely online sessions, so online recorded videos. Now, as a lot of you recognize, for online recorded videos, there is just a one-time cost of production, right? And if I have a couple of sales, if I sell that online video to say 2 of you, I've recovered my initial cost. So all of the subsequent sales that I do after my second sale, it directly goes to my bottom line because I've already recovered my cost. My cost of COGS, cost of goods sold, is very small, which means my margins are really high. My margins are 85%, 75%. EBITDAs are strong, positive cash flows. Unlike a lot of e-commerce unicorns in the country, made real money. But the problem was it was always dependent on new customer acquisitions only. There was no repeat behavior. Why? Because it's normal, right? Unlike say Ola booking, where repeat behavior is very natural to the category. In this category, there was no repeat, despite all of the unit economics being good. Marketing certification program. Pretty difficult for me to convince him to spend another 15,000-20,000 bucks in another course, right? It wasn't natural to the category itself. It was like, so when we were looking to raise funds, the next round of funds from VCs, a lot of VCs would not touch us with a barge pole because they felt the business was inherently risky. Because you're always 99.99% of your monthly revenues were coming in from new acquisitions. There was no stickiness, there was no loyalty. Customers were coming in through that door, leaving through that, not sticking around. So we managed to turn this around by saying, you know what, my relationship with my target customer is not just that of a training partner. I'm there as a career partner to my existing customers. So I'm presenting to you, here is my customized learning path for you, right? That was the pitch that we made to our existing customers. So we created a nurture and engagement email campaign via marketing automation again, targeting existing customers who had graduated out of Simplilearn 6 months prior and who had given a good NPS score, 8.5 plus. And we said that it's been 6 months since we talked. Can we re-engage? Here is your personalized learning path. You're here at the base of this mountain. You want to get to this peak, which is the aspirational chief marketing officer role if you're in the marketing track, chief data scientist role if you're in the data science track. You need to go to base camps ABC to get there. If you think about which are 2-3 other courses. If you think about it, there's nothing special, nothing unique. It's just a bundled sale that we're doing. But we pitched, packaged and sold it as the concept of a learning path. And it was personalized for each individual. We did not offer this for new leads coming through the system, first time customers, because it would be too much to consume. We just wanted them in by selling a particular course. For existing customers, this was something that was pitched, and this enabled us to grow our month-on-month contribution from repeat business to 15% over 3 quarters. This grew from virtually zero. This is an example of, this is completely incremental ground up. So the 99.90 almost contribution changed to 85-15 of new customers when I interact with startup founders is how much should I spend in marketing? That is the first question that a lot of people ask me. I wanted to give you a couple of examples of startup success stories in India which have built really strong brands just by focusing on the power of content and SEO. Over the long term, they managed to build profitable, scalable businesses. How many of you have heard of Thrillophilia? Few of you have. Now, this is a company that went through a tough time during COVID and operates in the travel tech space, allows people to book holidays and experiences. And as you know, travel tech is a dog-eat-dog world, hyper competitive. You've got global multinational companies, Booking.com, IBO Group, etc., competing with homegrown, local, heavily VC-funded players, Oyo Rooms, ClearTrip, MakeMyTrip, etc. Now, against all of this, here was a company that's completely bootstrapped, running on promoters' funds, just the founders' money, which was able to hold its own. SEO was the only thing they did. They had no money for anything else, right? SEO was literally the only thing they did from marketing. But what they did was something very cool and pragmatic. They used a very cool flanking strategy. Now, a lot of the keyword analytics tools that I mentioned, SEO, Moz, SEMrush, they, along with the keyword search volume, they also give you another variable, which is keyword ranking difficulty, which tells you how difficult or easy is it for you to rank for a keyword. So the mistake that a lot of startup founders like you make when it comes to SEO and content is you go after the keyword which has the highest search volume, saying I want to rank for this. But if the keyword has such large search volume, invariably there will be a well-entrenched competitor who's already ranking on page 1 for that keyword. It's next to impossible for a young startup to rank on page 1. As you know, if you don't rank on page 1 on Google, it's as good as not ranking. Nobody goes to page 2, right? But what these guys did was something interesting, wherein they said, screw that. I'm not worried about the high demand keywords. Let me go after the low and medium demand keywords where my ranking difficulty is also not easy. The ranking difficulty is not high. So they went after a long tail of such keywords, hundreds of such keywords, focusing on their USP, which was holidays and experiences. So they picked up unheard of small hill stations like a Kuttikanam, which is on the border of Kerala and Tamil Nadu. Kuttikanam, holidays and experiences. Mount Abu, holidays and experiences. So focusing on hundreds of such keywords, that's how they managed to grow their brand. Another example of a SEO and content-led success story from India is Practo. I'm sure all of you have heard of Practo, India's largest doctors marketplace. Gets 30 million visits a month. And the jaw-dropping, believe it or not, 90%, so more than 25 million visits, 27.5 million, 27 million of those visits are via SEO, are via organic channels, which means they don't pay for it. It's free. I mean, there is time and effort involved in creating content, of course, but there is no media cost attached to it. And that is a staggering number of, obviously they have a first mover advantage there. Their SEO is so good, let's say that you are a gynecologist in Kochi and you have your own practice, you run your own, you have your own website. I search for his name, Dr. Your good name, sir? Abhishek. Dr. Abhishek, gynecologist, Cochin. His listing on Practo will actually come up higher than his own website listing. And I'll end up booking a consultation with him via Practo. He'll have to share his consulting fees with Practo. That's how strong their SEO is. Again, both of these examples underscore how you can build a long-term scalable business just by focusing on the power of content and SEO. The next thing that I want to talk to you about, after which we'll wrap and take any questions, is a story of failure at Stayzilla. How many of you, some of you raised your hand saying you've heard of Stayzilla. Stayzilla again operated in the travel tech space, hyper competitive, operated in the value and budget accommodation space, selling rooms which were priced at $1,000 a night and lesser. Competed with Oyo Rooms. At one point, believe it or not, we were actually bigger than Oyo. Before things unraveled, we had raised cumulatively $60-70 million and then shut down. The biggest mistake that we made in hindsight was the fact that we tried to pivot to the Airbnb alternate accommodation model, which was a big learning, right? And as you know, Indian society, even today, Airbnb is not mainstream, right? And Indian society was just not ready for making that kind of a cultural shift. Now, Airbnb in the West did not do anything new. Even before Airbnb came, if you had walked downtown San Francisco, you would see boards that said bed and breakfast for $90 a night, where people were totally open to welcoming strangers, tourists into their home if they had a spare bedroom, a spare flat, and letting them spend a couple of nights and leave. They were totally okay with that. All Airbnb did was put it on a central platform. In India, it was an unheard of thing. So the pitch obviously was arbitrage. Now, if you give your spare flat for rent, you'll make maybe 20,000-30,000 rupees a month. But you give it on Airbnb, per night, you can earn $5,000. So even if you have like 30% occupancy, you make $50,000 in a given month, which is a huge multiple on what you can make by giving it on rent. That was the entire pitch. But India was culturally not ready, right? And even today, the biggest play with Airbnb, even today, if you think about it, the reason why it's so popular abroad is you go to Times Square in the US. I've stayed in Airbnbs there for as low as $50 a night, when every other hotel in the 2-3 block radius is $500 and above per night. It's so expensive there. But Airbnb is 50. So you get huge arbitrage if you go on Airbnb abroad. But in India, because there is a self-selection bias, people want only people from upper middle class or foreign tourists coming from abroad to stay in their alternate accommodations. The prices themselves are very high. They're almost close to a 5-star accommodation price. So Airbnb as a model is still struggling in India, and this is like 10 years ago, it was struggling even more. And it was a product for which PMF, product market fitment, was just not there. But we were pushing it. It was a big strain on the startups' resources, both financially and from a mind space perspective. We were running a lot of roadshows for attracting hosts, because in a marketplace, two-sided marketplace, you need the supply first. So we needed hosts to actually open up their flats. That was the biggest thing we were pushing for, and it was a big drain on the company's resources, and eventually the company crashed and burned. So the biggest learning from that was make sure that once you achieve PMF, you zero in on that particular product or service. In hindsight, if we had continued doing what we were doing, which had led us to that point of success, the company would have certainly grown and certainly been alive today. And the other thing is, I'm a big believer, and that failure underscored that even more, that it is better to focus, especially if you're a startup, better to focus on fewer number of things and do a really good job of that, as opposed to doing a mediocre job of multiple things.